People whose homes have dog-cat doors. Have wild animals ever entered your pet doors, and what happened when that occurred? I lived in an apartment that backed up to an open field for a while and had a real raccoon issue. Once they figured out that the cat door was occasionally open after I left it open one night when was out late, they would show up in a gang of 5 to 7 every night and bang in the slider and try it get in. TH apartment was a studio with a slightly lofted bedroom, and one evening was sitting on the couch working and saw what thought was my cat wander down into the living room and hop up onto the couch next to me. I reached out to give her a scratch and noticed in my periphery that her body language was off. That was when I turned to look at her and realized it was a raccoon. I screamed and leapt off the couch. The raccoon made a quick exit back out the cat door. My cat slept through the whole exchange. Oh boy, this is a fun one. Please upvote OP's post because my wife and I love to read the replies and other people's experiences. So I had just left the house to grab something from the store when my wife calls me. She is frantic. "Ah, Dexter. Hurry, get back now. Help." Dexter was our older dog who had been infrequent but periodic seizures over the past couple years. I figured it was happening again and she was freaking out. I wasn't far, so I turned around and parked out front. Hit the door as locked. I had gone out the garage. Run around to the side door. Also locked. Go around to garage, *UCK the opener is in my car at the front of the house. Go around to the side door, unlocked fortunately. Finally. While I know there's nothing I can really do, I know she is scared and needs me there with her for Dexter. I know the sense of urgency she would want me to have and am a little out of breath running all around the house trying to get back inside. Go inside, head to the bedroom. Wife is wide-eyed hugging our old boy for dear life. I walk in, start to ask how Dexter is doing. Someone is in the house. My adrenaline shoots through the roof. What the UCK? Why were you withholding this information until just now? I grab the bat I keep by the bed. Where Arethy? Well, I didn't see a person but a dog walked into our room and I assume someone brought them in. Wave of relief. That doesn't really make any sense. Did you hear a person walking around? No IDK, just go check it out. Second wave of relief. I check the whole house and no one is there. But I find a poor frightened dog hiding behind the washing machine in the room where our doggy Dory's. It wasn't a wild animal, definitely someone's pet at some point. But this poor animal is half-shaved, yes half-shaved, and looks like a mess. What makes it even weirder is that it is not possible for a dog to just find itself in that part of our yard. It's a small narrow runner with fences on all sides and 2 locked gates. No sign of burrowing under anything. Our neighborhood has a gate and is not the kind of place people just wander into to drop dogs off in. All yards are very visible to a lot of other houses. So someone got in, then came to our front yard, opened our gate, and dropped their dog into a narrow runner full of dog oop and left without anyone noticing. There is a happy ending, because we got it groomed and fed and she was incredibly cute. An older lady down the street was overjoyed to get to take care of her and we see her often in the neighborhood now. We don't have cat doors but in the summer we have our doors open many days because of all the work we're doing. Constant KY going inside and out. One day we found raccoon prints on the hardwood floor. The little guy just walked inside in the middle of our busy work and no one noticed. He walked in, took a nice stroll around the floor, and walked back out. My stepmother also once walked downstairs and saw a raccoon sitting on its *ut like a human just chilling on a chair. Another day, my stepmother went into my bedroom and saw a stray cat just laying on my bed. Just came inside and acted like the house was his, as cats want to do, I suppose. Kind of similar, I guess. I once walked into the kitchen and noticed that our horse had gotten inside. He had opened a cupboard in the mudroom and was happily munching away on some chaff we had stored there. The pull-down handle to the back door was covered in horse slobber, as was the cupboard door handle. *Auger. Also, one of our cats has brought in the odd snake. They are very much alive when she deposits them inside the house. Luckily, she usually chooses to leave them in the bath for some reason.
When did you find out that someone in your family is evil? When my 11-year-old cousin got cancer, her mom and boyfriend were shooting up her pain medicine. My cousin was in so much pain, she told her doctors. That's when the doctors stopped giving her mom a prescription and the nurses dispensed her pain meds at the hospital. Unfortunately, they could not keep track of medication while at home, so they reported it. CPS removed her. She died shortly after in foster care. Parents were never charged. When my uncle took my nose, it's been years and I still haven't gotten it back. I had an aunt, my mother's sister, Betty. She was mean as a snake. Not in physical way, but in a domineering, my way or the highway kind of manner. For some reason she never liked me. I'm sure it was something stupid I said when I was 6 or 7, but it really was so obvious that even my immediate family would wonder what I had ever done to her. Then again, she loved to take swipes at everyone and everybody if they weren't living life or saying things in precise accordance with the way Betty thought it should be. Essentially the self-appointed dowager of the family, determined to dictate to everyone how they should live their lives. Betty was married to her poor husband. Occasion with those two ever was complete without her giving him a tongue lashing for something trivial. When Bill died, there was no funeral, no nothing. Just took his ashes and dumped them in the sea. Anyway, Betty used to go on vacations by herself all over the world. We just took it for granted that her husband didn't want to go. Until her husband died. As it turns out, Betty had something like a 30-year affair with someone, a guy who was always her traveling companion. When my uncle died, this guy was over the moon because now Betty was newly single. Only he didn't realize that Betty had a different guy waiting in the wings. I won't go into all the things she did and said, but she had 2 kids. Her son was molested by a next-door neighbor when he was a kid. Betty knew about it and did nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But she sure liked to talk hit about her son. He's messed up to this day. And she continued with her son's children. Just would talk about what idiots they were. One grandson got so tired of it, he literally married an Australian girl, moved there, and has never been back. Meanwhile, at my other cousin's 65th birthday party, Betty thought it would be nice to tell an adorable anecdote about how my cousin was a nice little rule follower. She proceeds to tell the story about how she absolutely forbade my cousin, when walking home from school, from crossing the street if there was no crossing guard. One day, the crossing guard did not show up for work. So my cousin stood petrified at the curb for 2 solid hours until my aunt realized her daughter had not come home from school. While Betty thought she was telling a story about her daughter, in truth she was telling a story about herself. So, yeah. No bank robberies. No torturing kittens or anything like that. Instead, relentless savaging of anyone near and dear to her in life. Not a reflective bone in her body either, or else at some point, she might have thought of the damage she was doing. When he purposely excluded his 4-year-old son from a previous relationship, from his wedding to his new spouse, deleted all photos of his son from his social media, and legally signed away all parental rights. He has since had 2 more kids with said new spouse. IDK about evil, but my dad got remarried and has a kid and stepson with his new spouse. All of that would be fine if he didn't pretend that none of us, offspring from first marriage, exist, so he can pretend this family is the first family and whenever happened. Once this realization hit me, I stopped contacting him, and once I stopped putting in the effort, everything else dissipated. We haven't spoken at all. He does not care in the least. I honestly believe that he wishes we never even existed. He is a failure as a father and as a man. When they ripped apart 3 generations of my family almost immediately after my dad died for a measly $37,000, he's a millionaire. That kind of money is pocket change to him. When I went to visit family in Michigan in 2001, I learned that the reason 2 of my uncles weren't on speaking terms was because one of them sexually molested the other's daughter once. After that, I learned from other people in the family that he also masturbated in front of my sister in a car parked in an alley, molested 2 other cousins, and even molested his own granddaughter. When my dad died of COVID, my aunt tried to say she was entitled to some stuff of his since it belonged in the family. She even called a lawyer on us, and it was big deal, and my mom didn't need to deal with that trying to raise 3 kids on her own, so *UCK her. She still bothers us about stuff, and all it is like plates and some pictures and some other things. Edit. The disorder is called INAD, infantile neuroaxonal dystrophy. About 5 years ago, when I discovered that my cousin lied about having a severely disabled daughter who she said was going to die a terrible death and not make it much past 8. My cousin had a baby and then disappeared for a few years. When the baby was 3, she came back into our lines with the worst news I have ever heard. Her daughter had a disease that was going to make her deteriorate quickly. She would lose her sight, hearing and mobility before eventually dying. She had a huge fundraiser event in her new community she moved to. She falsified letters and records so she could take advantage of charities like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The Make-A-Wish Foundation sent her family to Disney World. The truth came out when people in her community realized the money she raised from the fundraiser didn't actually go to the cause. She had pictures on social media of them going to the bank and everything. After it came out, she was the scum of the earth. She vanished and no one has heard from her since. May you rot in hell, Cynthia. When I found out my aunt divorced because my uncle was molesting their teen daughter. My cousin remarried. She had 2 sons from her previous marriage. Her new husband has 3 sons from his previous marriage. He is a very strict disciplinarian. Her eldest son, 14, was struggling at school, and the new stepdad was violent and abusive. She sided with the new husband, and instead of helping her son, she kicked him out and hasn't spoken to him in over a year. He lives with his grandma now. His mum hasn't even asked about him. What a *unt. When I was 9 and I came to the realization that my mother was beating my older sister, not discipline. When my ex said, "You've been a godsend, I want a divorce." I had taken time off from work to take care of her parents. She told me this right before her dad died, and she inherited. She found a boyfriend while I was with her parents. She got the house by declaring I had abandoned it. I was with her parents. When I was 8, my grandmother beat the hit out of me for not wanting to be part of "Abortion is the Devil's Choice" float in a 4th of July parade. Years later, she told me she should have just killed me that day. 3 days ago, at the age of 89, she fell down a flight of stairs and suffered 3 broken ribs, massive brain bleed, and several broken bones, and pensive face that *itch will live forever cause the devil doesn't want competition. Tidbits in conversations with family members. The older I got, the worse the stories. Uncle went to prison for statutory rape. Cousin was raped by a distant relative. Uncle raised his hand at his wife because she was talking too much as his opinion. No one said anything. Uncle was emotionally and physically abusive to his wife and daughters for years. Aunt stole my mom's identity and left her kids with us. She was an addict. Sadly hasn't recovered successfully. She didn't get charged because police said she's family. My great-aunt's first husband tried to kill her. My grandpa was let out prison to die at home. Neglectful father who got one of his own kids hooked on drugs. All those uncles are different uncles. BTW. I could go on, but I'm getting sad. I've never written a list before. My little sister sent my nudes to everyone in our family, all because I didn't text her back. When my husband's brother, one of 5 siblings, said he couldn't make it to our house to plan their mother's funeral because he had to work. Meanwhile, Lou found out he wasn't working because we caught them on Ring doorbell entering the mom's house, tore rifle through it while the rest of us were planning the funeral at my house.